On this week's episode, She-Hulk is ready for court. Let's get ready to Rumbleverse. And is it one D&D to rule them all? All this and more as we reach our next stop, the PCC Multiverse. And we're back with another episode of the PCC Multiverse. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And if you can, please give us that 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, the Lakers Fast Break, Vampires, and Vitae, also as well everything that we do, including Wizards and Wine and Wild Beyond the Witchlight, plus everything that we do on Facebook at Pop Culture Cosmos, because we're the #1 tabletop RPG streamer that's out there on Facebook. If you can check out all of our many hours, and there's many hours, of tabletop RPG streaming right there for you that we do each and every week at Pop Culture Cosmos. Plus, we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture every week right there at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook, plus popculturecosmos.com. We've got a ton of things for you to like, share, and subscribe to, and if you could do all of that, it is sincerely appreciated. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without my good friend. She is our own streaming queen of Pop Culture Cosmos. And I told you, I warned you I would do that before I started the show. That's what happens when you give me advice on OBS.
Yeah,
You got to go ahead and check it out today at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. Of course, Vampires and Vitae, when her and her husband Rob gets the whole gang together to go ahead and suck some blood each and every week at Vampires and Vitae. Plus also as well, Wild Beyond the Witchlight, part of the Wizards and Wine Emporium, each and every week you can check out that ongoing action every week at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook, and podcasts by Melinda on Facebook. And I'll tell you what, she's doing a lot of great things out there. It is my good friend. It is Melinda Barkhouse Ross. And Melinda, before we go on the air and talk about all the great things going on in pop culture, I just wanted to drop something for you that I haven't told you yet. I was doing one of the shows recently for the Lakers Fast Break, and we were on the air live, and we always have a great chat room experience. There's a ton of people that actually stop by to go ahead and leave their comments on what's going on with the NBA and all that. And someone, I will mention right there, Alan, who's a good guy and just appreciate everything that he does as far as in that chat room, dropped right in the middle of it, about 40 minutes in. You guys do a great job at the PCC. And I was just like blown away that you would take the time out to recognize what we do here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Alan, from all of us, it is sincerely appreciated. I mean, we get stuff all the time from people out there telling us what our show's like. They appreciate everything that we do. I get notes every now and then from the radio station managers from around the world that love our shows and keep getting our shows. And anytime someone goes out of the way to go ahead and tell us that, it is sincerely appreciated.
Yeah, it's really funny how much you forget that it's much easier for people to tell you something they don't like about a show that you do versus, actually receiving a genuine compliment about something that you're doing. So, yeah, that's
Absolutely.
huge. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's just so cool that we got it on a show that I do on my other time the week. So, yeah, that's just greatly appreciated. That blew me away. Those kind of things in life just really just make your day when you hear that and you read that. So, truly appreciate, Alan, all the love out there. But for today's show, we're going to be showing the love, or are we going to be showing the hate on the first episode this week of She-Hulk that's now on Disney Plus right there for you. I'll be talking to Jeff Sloboda from the MCU's Bleeding Edge coming up here at the back end of the show. Plus also as well, Melinda and I are going to be covering, is this the possibility of the end of Westworld? We'll go ahead and talk about that. Plus also as well, our thoughts on the Wednesday trailer for the upcoming series from Tim Burton coming up on Netflix. Also as well, Rumbleverse. It's a brand new game that's out the past couple weeks. It's been out there and it's really looking like it could be a contender for the Fortnite crown. Why? We'll tell you why coming up on the show as well. But first, my friend, I know you every now and then kind of dabble in tabletop RPGs, and I think you've heard of this game. It's kind of like it reminds me of I think it sounds like Bludgeons and Blagons. Oh yeah, it's Dungeons and Dragons. That's right.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
one. Yeah,
yeah,
that
that
little
one,
game.
that one. Yeah, that little game indeed. 50 years
Yeah.
old, 50 years strong. The reason why I'm talking about is they recently announced this week, along with the release of a long-awaited module Spelljammer, and that experience which can take your crew and your whole group and party into space,
Mhm.
which we here at the Pop Culture Cosmos can't wait to experience. I can't wait to experience. I even helped, and I know you and I know other people helped Roger go ahead and acquire the Spelljammer experience. So definitely looking forward to that because it dropped this week and is available right now on Amazon. I think at a 40% discount, if I'm not mistaken. But I will say the one thing that they did on top of that is later this week announced an experience they've got. They're going to go ahead and bring out and release in full. They're working on it now. It's still in the beta stages, but it is one D&D in regards
Yeah.
to not only it just reshaping the 5e experience, 5th edition experience, just building upon the success of that because it's been immensely successful. I know that we talked about before a possible 6th edition coming down the line, but 5th edition has been so successful for them. They're talking about now that you're just going to go ahead for now, build upon it, taking their newly acquired D&D Beyond that they purchased and incorporating that and actually creating an online experience from it as well. Hear that, roll 20, and going ahead from there. So your thoughts on this? You are much more experienced than I am in the world of tabletop RPGs. People have seen my bumps in the road and highs and lows and learning experiences when it comes to tabletop RPGs in the 2 years since I picked it back up again after 30
Mhm.
years of not playing it. So I want to hear your thoughts on this. This is the grand design for Wizards of the Coast to go ahead and bring you a one D&D experience not only on your tabletop, not only through your internet, through your customization and your character creation with the fact that they now own D&D Beyond, but creating a software platform for you to go ahead and build your adventures as well.
Yeah, and I may have misunderstood the trailer that I watched because it was quite early this morning when I watched it, but, it I believe that it's going to be a add-on to D&D Beyond. I don't think it's 2 separate things. I
Well,
think
they,
it's the
they
same
announced
thing
it
and
and they
they're
tiered it as
channeling it
three
together.
separate things.
Okay, maybe it is then. Maybe I did misunderstand what they were talking about, but, either way, about time for them to catch up to that.
Well, I mean, the D&D Beyond, I'm sure they're going to incorporate closely with that experience where you can build your playsets. They'll have a playset that's built for you and I guess, a template to start off with. But how you create it from there online is totally up to you. But they still want to make sure that you're playing on the tabletop RPG experience because they're going to support it with the capabilities of including on your mobile phone and tablet. Of course, getting into the modern age in regards to that, getting into the modern age is concerned. So yes, I mean they're just trying to incorporate it and modernize it, and I think that's a extremely smart plan from Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah, it's almost like they wish the last 2 years they could have a do-over for once they get their
Absolutely,
virtual tabletop launched because
excellent
my
point.
goodness. Because I think that a lot of people are itching to get back to, the table, the physical table with their friends. But one thing that they did talk about, and I know a lot of people have grumbled about it a lot in the past, is now you're not gonna have to go and buy a physical book and a digital copy. They're gonna have bundles, so you're gonna be able to get the book and the digital copy, together, which I
Mhm.
think is very, very smart. Thank you for doing
Yes.
that because I was, not super happy when like 3 new books would come out and I'd have to go buy physical copies, and then in order for my players to be able to utilize them properly, I would have to buy them on D&D Beyond as well. So this is an opportunity for that to hopefully help the pocketbook a little bit.
But you know, you
Um,
and I both know that in regards to the actual physical playing in front of a group of friends, that experience, they still want to go ahead and make sure that's every bit a part of what one D&D is all about. The fact that, the building of the miniatures, the creation of the miniatures, that section alone, as far as that part of the D&D lifestyle, is so much of a ingrained now as far as D&D, with so many individuals. They're not walking away from that. They're just trying to modernize it, but still incorporate what's great about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're getting revisions of the core books. So they're still the skeleton, I guess is the way that you could look at it, is still going to be 5e. They're just taking some of the rules, they're expanding them, they're making them a little more versatile so you can really take the game and adapt it to exactly what your table needs, exactly what your players want, that kind of thing. We're going to get a new monster manual, new player's book, and a new dungeon master's guide. That's in 2024, I
Mhm.
believe. But in the meantime, my gosh, they are releasing a whole bunch of stuff
Can we make sure
between
that
now and then.
Roger for our Monday game gets a Dungeon Master book with just one page on it with one line? Let the players win.
Yes, I think we've won D&D a couple of times with Roger. I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. He tried hard on Monday from what I was watching. I said, "You
I
guys need help," but
yeah,
saw those
right?
golems people were, that you were trying to go ahead and fight out there.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, there's going to be more races coming, more classes. I heard somewhere, and please forgive me because I was, in the 5 minutes between, getting home and sitting down in front of the computer and logging in and getting ready to do this. I think I saw something about um they are getting rid of backgrounds and they'll be using it somewhere else. Please forgive me if that is not 100% correct because like I said, I was sitting down, typed in Dungeons and Dragons to make sure that I had my notes here right that I made this morning. All of that stuff checked out, and then I just kind of saw headlines. So, yeah, I don't know if they're looking at maybe taking backgrounds and making them more of like a more class feeling options
Mhm.
than I know they sort of are now, but I don't
But
know.
I
Maybe
think
you
they're
would.
rephrasing this. Well, I know we talked about it, like I said previously, that this sixth edition would be on its way. I think that this is what they're going to be calling it and rephrasing it as one D&D going forward.
Yes, that is it. So there's not going to be any more editions of Dungeons and Dragons. There's no more. Nobody's going to be arguing if 3.5 is better than 5e. You're not going to hear those arguments anymore. It's simply going to be one D&D, and they're just going to release and update as they need to. So it's going to make it a little more fluid that way, which I think is interesting. I'm also very interested in how flexible they're going to be making some of these new rules. Perhaps the books will lend themselves a little bit more to the rule of cool versus the age old argument of rules as written versus rules as intended versus rule of cool. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can get into and really go down a rabbit hole, but no, I'm excited. I'm feeling optimistic about it. I perhaps haven't spent enough time with it to develop any skepticisms about the new information yet, but so far, I'm seeing nothing but stuff that I like. So I'm excited.
And if there is anything that bothers you, I guess I will know where you're going to go ahead and vent at here first, and then you're going to go protest in front of the offices of either Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro, either or both.
Yeah, but both probably. I
Okay.
mean, I have that kind of time on my hands. We both know.
Well, you know what this reminds me of, and I think that they're modeling after, because again, they originally said it was going to be a sixth edition months
Yeah.
ago, that it was going to be coming in 2024, and now they're changing it to this expansion of the fifth edition and calling it one D&D. This reminds me so much of a game that goes to live service or games as a service, as just it's going to be a game where it's not you're not going to get a sequel or you're not going to go get a trilogy. You're just going to get one game, and they're going to continue to build on this experience for 5, 10, 15 years going forward. I think the folks at Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro saw this concept and thought that was much better than just going, okay, every 5 years we're just going to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6. they finally realized, you know what? They think that fifth edition has worked well. They kind of tweak things that they need to go ahead and work on, like for instance, making a little bit more I guess, inclusionary for newer audiences, for
Yeah.
newer DMs, which is
Mhm.
something that they mentioned in the trailer that opened up this one D&D conversation. That they mentioned they want to make it more inviting for people to go ahead and be a part of it. I think for players, it's still pretty easy to get into. You just go in and say, okay, what am I going to go ahead and kill now? Whereas for DM, it's still a lot of stuff that you have to get used to, and I think they want to go ahead and maybe, like you talked about earlier, streamline that to make it an easier experience to go ahead and tell those stories. You can always find players. DMs are not always that hard. That DMs are not always that easy to find.
Yeah, I have been both at this point. I've been a DM, I've been a player. I became a DM out of necessity because our DM decided he didn't want to run anything for a little while. He was burnt out. And it sounds silly to people who haven't sat in the DM chair. How do you get tired of just, you're planning a night with your friends? There's a little bit more to it than that. That's
Yes.
why when I'm a player in a game, the DM does not need to bring snacks. We supply snacks for said DM. Drinks are on the table, not on the DM. Stuff like that. Because the DM does work so hard to make sure that the game they're putting together is a good one. It's going to be a good experience. And, most of the time, a DM hears a lot about, well, I didn't like the way that you did this. I didn't really appreciate that too much, or the rule lawyers have to get involved in something. And it can make DMing, a frustrating experience. So the fact that they're kind of looks like they're trying to take some of that off of a new DM who's sitting in the chair for the very first time, I think it is a wonderful thing. And Chris Perkins is going to be the guy who's actually kind of revising and restructuring the DM guide, the book that you get. So I'm optimistic about that because I've really enjoyed things that he's been part of so far, all of the modules and stuff like that. So I believe that they're going to do this with the new DM in mind. I believe that even people who have been DMing for 20 years will be able to pick up this book, and it's going to remind you of something that maybe you've forgotten, you haven't done in a long time. So yeah, like I said, I'm not seeing any red flags about anything here for me. I'm just seeing all good stuff and all good potential. So
Well, at least the talk, especially in the trailer that they showcased, this one D&D concept was very inviting. It was very encouraging and very positive on what is going forward. You mentioned again finding DMs. It always seems to be the issue. Dungeon masters, per se, for those that are not familiar with it, people who can create the experience for the players. They're not always the easiest to come by. I remember the fact that our one of our most famous games here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, Demolition Force on Mondays, that was created out of necessity because our DM at the time dropped out, and Roger, by out of necessity, had to take over, which is something he hadn't done for decades prior as far as creating that game. And he's done a great job since. We're almost reaching our 100th adventure, 100th part, 100th edition of this adventure that we've been on so far. So it's been a great time indeed. And so, yes, to create that going forward, to help necessitate the experience to be even better, I'm looking forward to seeing how they're going to just include all these different aspects, ones that they've created and ones that they purchased in D&D Beyond to create this one D&D concept.
absolutely. And something that I know is very near and dear to all of us who have had a part in Demolition Force is the Lost Mines of Fendelver. And what's
Mm-hmm.
really cool is they have started to talk about their 2023 releases, and Fendelver is getting its very own full on campaign. So Lost
Awesome.
Mine is really geared towards like a beginner player. And yeah, this is going to be a full like 5 chapter start to finish campaign, which is
Well,
really
for us, it
exciting.
took what, 30, almost 30 weeks?
I never said it was a one shot. I just
Yes.
said this is going to be a fully fleshed out campaign. So I'm optimistic about that. I'm also very interested about Bigby presents Glory of the Giants. And yeah, the Book of Many Things. No, there's a lot to be excited about as a D&D player right now.
Absolutely, indeed. And the announcement of the one D&D total concept, bringing together all the great aspects of the tabletop experience and the online experience and the customer creation experience all into one big happy family is what they're working on. In fact, there's beta testing going on right now for the 1D&D for the online concept. So if you want to go ahead and be a part of it, go ahead and check it out on the D&D Made site today. And you'll be glad you did, especially finding out more about this 1D&D concept, which is coming very soon, the not too distant future. 6th edition is out, but 1D&D looks like it's here to stay. What are your thoughts out there on 1D&D and the reimagining of what we could be playing down the road for Dungeons and Dragons? Please let us know your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, before we hit the break, Melinda, wanted to ask you real quick, speaking of gaming, one of the latest free-to-play ventures, I know we talked about WB's Multiverses, which has gotten a lot of people really excited about this Super Smash Brothers experience featuring all these different Warner Brothers characters. But one of the other games to come out that's gotten really, really good reviews is a very much a Fortnite feeling and looking game called Rumbleverse, but with a catch, because this has to have a niche. It has to have a niche, in that you do not have weapons per se, as far as guns or anything like that. You do have weapons, but you might be like a chair, or it might be something you can throw at somebody. But the main thing that you want to go ahead and utilize is your fists and your kicks and your moves, because it's more like if it went to a crazy professional wrestling world and you created it from that. So this creates also, again, like Fortnite, similar. They drop you into the city, you go ahead and you battle out, you duke it out with all your friends to become the last individual standing. The walls close in on you as far as trying to go ahead and make the arena smaller and smaller and smaller as time runs out. That part is very familiar. That part is very Fortnite-ish, but the crazy combos you can create and the crazy moves you can go ahead and do has made this very attractive, and also made this battle royale genre, which was looking kind of tired and which was looking kind of repetitive, giving it almost gives it a sign and a breath of life that it sorely needed.
Yeah, absolutely. This is definitely a game that I'm putting on my list of games to play with my 8-year-old nephew. we've we have gone toe to toe a couple of times in Fortnite, and he was also very excited. We won 2 matches back to back, and he was
There you
pumped
go.
about it. So yeah, I'm not saying that we're great at it, but from time to time, me and the little guy get together and get the chance to
Melinda
play
is
some
the
video
next
games.
ninja. Watch out.
Yeah, right. Can you imagine? Not in 1,000 years. But yeah, no, this looks adorable, and I'm definitely going to scoop it up. And I've got to get a hold of my nephew, get a hold of my sister, make sure it's cool that we get this game downloaded for him, and start playing. Finally, we'll be on even ground instead of him. I've played this game for 4 years now, Auntie Min. I've
Well,
played for 5 minutes. This is going to be fun.
yeah, I think it looks like it's a lot of fun. I mean,
Yeah.
it's something, again, you don't have to spend money to try. It's free to play.
Yep.
Obviously, it has the cosmetic upgrades. If you want to go ahead and
Yeah.
get into that, it's there for you. But the free to play concept, at least that part of it, is a lot of fun to go ahead and check out. I've had a chance to go ahead and check out a lot of the videos, and I'm really impressed with what they're doing. Does it really bring a whole lot to this genre that's new? No, it doesn't. A lot of the similar concepts you will see in Fortnite and many of these other battle royales are there. But the fact that it has this different kind of slant, and we've seen these different kind of slants before with all these other battle royales are trying to bring something new, ones that provide magic, ones that provide different kind of weapons, one that provides machinery, ones that provide moving weapons, flying weapons, vehicle weapons. This is something a little bit different from that, as far as making it more cartoonish, more approachable, and also a lot of fun as well. So I'm looking forward to it. And again, it's free to play. So hey, why not give it a try?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think too. Why not? Give it a try. Find a nephew or a
Find it.
niece
Yeah, exactly.
and sit
Find
them
someone.
down and say, "Let me show you something." And
Absolutely,
then
indeed.
yeah, and then you'll never have a moment of peace while you play video games again.
This is true. But hey, you
It's a
didn't
fair
spend any
trade-off.
money because it's free to play. Yes.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts out there on Rumbleverse? Have you checked out the brand new free to play Battle Royale game that's out there? Please let us know your thoughts. If you are ready to rumble with Rumbleverse, please let us know your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, back on a serious note before we hit the break, and that is Ezra Miller, something you and I have talked about extensively over the past few weeks, and the ongoing issues there, the continuing, I don't know, for lack of a better term, crime spree that he's been on over the course of the past year because of all the unfortunate incidents that have actually followed him and actually he's been a part of from one side of the globe to the other, literally one side of the globe to the other. And it's now headed up to the point with all the things that are out there, the rumors, the innuendo, the news reports saying, well, WB now has to make a serious decision on how it's moving forward with Flashpoint moving forward, and we're not sure that they're going to, which way they're going to go because of the restructuring of WB and Discovery and all that, and the layoffs that they did, and all the major changes that they made, and the fact that they canceled Batgirl just before it was ready to be aired, and the fact that they're removing all these lower populated, lower viewing movies and television series, that they're taking them off HBO Max, and all these financial decisions that they're making, among everything that they had to deal with, they had to deal with this Ezra Miller situation, which hasn't gotten any better. But this week, Ezra Miller, after a robbery arrest in Vermont, which we reported on last week, has indicated that they are going into a mental health, I guess, a rehabilitation, a mental health recovery. They're going into seek mental health treatment of some detail, which is what you and I have been asking for quite some time.
Yeah, it really did seem like somebody who was a little bit out of control, perhaps. And I mean, I don't know them, so I can't say for sure. But it just seemed like somebody who uh, was very much in trouble, and I don't mean like legal trouble. I mean like mental health. It seemed like there's something going on there. So I'm glad that they have come to a point where they are seeking treatment, where they are seeking help. That's always a positive first step. And now that that first step is being taken, I hope that recovery is beneficial, and I hope that it's something that will allow them to move on and move forward from this one.
Well, they did indicate in a prepared statement that they are seeking treatment for complex mental health issues.
Yeah,
They did apologize for their past behavior. And again, for that instance, both you and I can clearly say that we want the best for them,
of course.
i.e., Ezra Miller. We want the best for them in their treatment, in their recovery. But still, there's a Flashpoint movie that's still on the docket, even with all the other financial issues and financial problems that WB and Discovery have had. They are still have Flashpoint coming at the first half of next year. Your thoughts on this, because it comes back to what I say again, should they keep them on the roster at the forefront of this? Do you think it's wiser with a movie that they've already spent a whole ton of money, a whole ton of money on, reported to be anywhere from $200 to $300 million they've already spent on it? I would still say you reshoot the scenes, because you can't have them going out and do press for this movie anyways, which already puts it against the eight ball if that's the case. That's what's been talked about out there. Because if you have them do press as far as the normal press for a movie and whatnot, all that's going to be talked about is the controversy and controversy and controversy and all the past things that they have done. So it's put WB between the rock and a hard place. I just think you got to go ahead and make the move still. I'm still, even with the apology and the treatment, I still think that they need to go ahead I'm talking about WB, and make a change and reshoot those scenes with a Grant Gustin or someone else that can be able to front a major motion picture such as this.
Another option. Now,
Mm-hmm. And I
hang
want to
with
hear,
me.
absolutely.
Hang
I'm
with me
open.
for a second because this is a little outside of the box. Um, Take the movie, push the movie back, and give Ezra time to go through what Ezra needs to go through to get themselves, back to right, or back to being able to deal with life. Um, Release Batgirl in that original slot, and then you've bought yourself a little bit of time to go
Mhm.
ahead and get the star of your movie and back to a good place, back to healthy, and you can do any reshoots or anything like that with that actor that you need to do, and then everybody wins.
The only thing though is Batgirl was a movie that was meant straight for HBO Max,
That's okay.
which it may not be at the level of a major motion picture. I haven't seen it. We haven't seen it. No one's seen it outside the execs. So they were convinced that it's not ready for prime time, which is the reason, or part of the reason why they shut it down. I mean, part of the reason as well is because they can get a $90 million write off on the taxes.
Yeah.
So if you release it, you're going to have to pay the taxes on it plus whatever costs you have to go ahead for distribution, the whole 9 yards. I think that's a great idea. I think that the press from the cancellation from Batgirl has led to the fact that you might want to go ahead and release it just to put out some goodwill. But I'm not sure that they will end up doing it. But I think they do need to make a change, or like you said, make a move on the Flashpoint movie to maybe push it back even more, which I know would make a lot of people out there mad. But right now WB is in a very bad state of disarray. 1 month ago, things were looking a lot better heading into Comic Con, and they had a chance to really steal Comic Con and go in the right direction. But with everything all out of whack, I think that they do need to go ahead and get themselves together, and maybe pushing back Flash is probably the best idea.
Yeah, I think that that is very necessary. And I think that if you are going to stand by your lead actor, which I think at this point they've proven they're going to do,
Yeah,
stand
looks like
by
it.
Ezra Miller. I think that you need to take that pressure off of them, and you need to allow them the space and the time that they need, again, to get themselves back to right. I don't think that this is the time to take things away. And I think that just pushing it back a little bit and helping Ezra get a little bit more time and help them get back on the correct path, or at least a path of well-being, is the best thing that you can do for the actor right now.
Great suggestions indeed. But we want to hear your thoughts on what's going on with this continuing Ezra Miller issue. Do you think that Ezra Miller should stay in their current position as the lead for the Flashpoint movie? Do you think the Flashpoint movie should still be showcased? Do you think the Flashpoint do you think the Flashpoint movie should still be showcased next year, or do you think it should be delayed or something restructured? We've talked about it for weeks, but we definitely want to hear your thoughts on the issue, as this movie issue with the Flashpoint and Ezra Miller still continues. Please let us know your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, coming up next, it is Jeff Sloboda from the MCU's Bleeding Edge talking about episode 1 of She-Hulk. And when we return on the back end, Melinda and I are going to be talking about what she's been up to with Vampires and Vitae, Wizards and Wine. And also, as well, we'll be talking about Wednesday, no, not the day, the actual series coming up on Netflix, and possibly the end of Westworld as well. This is the PCC Multiverse. And we're back with the show. It's the PCC Multiverse to close out the program. This is Gerald Glassford, along with my good friend, Mrs. Melinda Barkhouse Ross. Want to thank so much Jeff Sloboda from the MCU's Bleeding Edge, talking about episode 1 of She-Hulk. Hopefully everybody has gotten a chance to see it, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on episode 1 of She-Hulk. Please let us know, popculturecosmos at yahoo.com, or popculturecosmos, wherever you get your social media. But speaking of Pop Culture Cosmos on social media, Being the number one tabletop RPG streamer that we are on Facebook, we do a lot of things, but two of the highlighted things that we do, two of the highlighted games that we run on Pop Culture Cosmos
Oh, sorry.
is not the woof 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 woof, but the the Pop Culture Cosmos. What the highlighted games that we run, two of them at least, are Vampires and Vitae, and of course Wizards and Wine with Wild Beyond the Witchlight. So Melinda is here now. Melinda, what kind of trouble are you getting Robbie into each and every week with Vampires and Vitae, and of course whiskey and and of course Wizards and Wine?
Yeah, so Vampires and Vitae, as you know, Margie is now headed to Ireland. So last Sunday was her last game with
In-house
her
game.
physically at the table. Yeah. So she's going to be gone for a couple of weeks while she gets situated and gets herself set up over in Ireland. And as soon as that happens, she's going to be joining us digitally. So she's going to be joining us from Ireland while she's over there. So there's going to be a lot more from Helen the Salubri, which turned out to be quite the surprise to, well, Leo, I suppose, Roger's character. But yeah, no, we are really kind of getting into the second act of the story, I think. The first act has kind of come to a bit of a conclusion. And the last two games, really, including like the one that's going to drop in podcast form tomorrow morning, the last two episodes have really felt almost like season finale level episodes with the amount of stuff that's going on in the episode. And it's funny because for the most part, both games take place in a single room, and it's just who is in the room and what's happening while we're there. So that's really, it's been a lot of fun to play. And we're really proud of the work that everyone around the table has done. So you can check out the latest episode tomorrow morning. It's called WT Frank. Self-explanatory when you listen to the episode, I promise. And then on Monday, I get back to the Las Vegas table with Wizards and Wine and the Wild Beyond the Witchlight. The Las Vegas table insisted that they finish the carnival no matter what. So we have a couple of stops left on the carnival tour before they get into the second chapter, which means heading into Hither and getting a little closer to finding out what's going on with the Hourglass Coven.
Definitely looking forward to seeing all the action that takes place each and every week with of course Vampires and Vitae, and of course also as well Wizards and Wine with Wild Beyond the Witchlight. Also want to go ahead and mention that we are doing Friday night games now, so that's been exciting addition to what we're seeing here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. And of course the great games run by Mitch, who I think does Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. So that man's plate is full in regards to DM. You always talk about your plate is full. His is as well. I mean, my gosh, you DMs, you're just cracking it out there as far as all those games you're putting out there.
Yeah, and Mitch he's such a good DM, and he tells
Yes,
really
he
good
is.
stories. Yeah,
Well,
he
you
really
are
is.
too. So is Robbie. You could get
Yeah,
great
I
games.
mean, we're okay, but I don't know.
Roger's terrific.
Mitch has that something special. I'm not sure what it is. But and he would probably be horrified if he knew that I was talking about him like that. But
He does a
no,
great job. I've been with
he
him through
really
many a
does.
campaign, and he's done a great job each and every time. Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah, for sure. So if you do have some time on the weekend, definitely reach out and give Mitch some love for his games because he's really great.
Absolutely. That's about 10 to 12 hours right there for you of Mitch on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Then you have Melinda coming right back at you here on Sunday as well, Sunday afternoon with Vampires and Vitae. And of course, everything that she does on Monday night with the crew from Wizards and Wine, Wild Beyond the Witchlight. Plus, of course, Monday in the afternoon with Roger and Demolition Force as well. My gosh. One time we were talking about how many days the week that we were filling up with content, and then we kind of like eased back a little bit because everybody was starting to go ahead and get too busy, and then all of a sudden we're gearing it back up again with all this great tabletop RPG action.
Yeah, and just to give you an idea of what Robbie and I are planning, we're hoping to add between the two of us 6 more games by next summer.
Oh my gosh!
I know,
Wow.
and maybe No, I don't think any of them are going to be another vampire game or another D&D game. So we've got some projects coming up, that's for sure.
Well, check it out. Indeed, go ahead. Please do so at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. You'll be glad you did. The number one tabletop RPG streamer on Facebook, and we've got tons of hours of waiting for you right there of entertaining tabletop RPG action, as only we can do it right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But before we head on out, Melinda, and before we head everyone out there on a great weekend, it looks like finally we are getting the release that was all up in confusion in regards to the movies with Dragon Ball Super Superhero is finally legitimately coming out to theaters after the mistake of misprinting by IGN and everything that went on there that we talked about on the Monday show. I know that Josh mentioned in regards to that. Please check out the story that he drops on the Monday show. It's really funny in regards to Dragon Ball Superhero, and I know he'll have thoughts on it when we come to the next show on the on Monday. But before we head on out, I know that's probably going to be the number one movie in America at box office because it's going to be a slow weekend. But also as well, this past weekend, what we didn't have a chance to get to because we were talking about Josh's and my miscalculation on Dragon Ball Super was possibly the end of Westworld. They did an Orville, which they, at the end of their season, I think it's season 4, they had a episode which closed a lot of loose ends. And even though they didn't say it's the last episode, they might, well, a lot of fans out there are thinking it might be the last episode of it. What are your thoughts about Westworld as it ends at season 4 and possibly its series for good?
Yeah, I please, I don't need the emails, please. But it might be time to end Westworld.
I agree.
You
Agree.
know, I
You
just
can send me the emails. I'll just forward them to Melinda.
yeah. Good
Kidding.
to know
I'm
you got
kidding.
my back, buddy. Good to know.
Yes, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But no, I just don't know how much further they can take the story. I I just don't know. I don't know where they could possibly go from here.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. This was a series, though, that was set up in the aftermath or the closing out of the Game of Thrones series. As it was
Right.
winding down, this series was supposed to supplant it as the HBO at that time, before HBO Max came out, as the series to watch. And initially it was.
Yeah,
Everybody was
absolutely.
glued into watching it, but as it got weirder, as it got stranger, as especially that at last episode of season 1 that really was kind of like out there. I think a lot of people got lost on that, and they lost a lot of viewers heading into season 2 and beyond as they started to evolve and leave the park and evolve beyond that in the world outside. And yeah, it seemed to go in places I think that not everybody wanted to go to, and I think it just lost its amount of viewers. I don't know exactly how popular it still is on HBO and HBO Max, but I would not be surprised if this is the end of the series. In fact, when you create an episode that kind of alludes to that, like with the Orville, where they did the same thing. I'm not going to go into detail about it, but they did make an episode that kind of closes out a lot of the stuff that they've done over the past 3 seasons, with the expectation that they're probably not going to get a season 4, and the same thing with Westworld, that they may not get a season 5. They really went ahead and gave the kind of message that this series probably will not be going forward. It's a very expensive series, at least early on. So, with the HBO Max Discovery deal costing so much money and them making so many cutbacks, I see it as a hard choice for HBO Max to go ahead and continue this, especially the fact that it's not the must-see series 4 seasons in that they were hoping that it would be.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that yeah, but you know, I'm just I guess I struggle with Westworld because I'm not really sure. Maybe it was the season finale of the first season like you mentioned. I just don't know where
That's
the
where it lost
story.
me. I'm going to be honest with you. I tried to get back
Yeah.
into it season 2. I just couldn't.
Yeah, I watched a lot of season 3 and I mean, I still had a fun time watching it. I love watching and this is going to be a very strange statement, so bear with me for a second while I try to explain myself
Oh,
out
I'm
of it.
sure I'll get the emails.
Um, but I there's something about watching beautiful people doing terrible things. And this show runs the gamut of beautiful people doing terrible things. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Do you know what
Well,
I'm
there's
trying
not
to
many
get at?
series that has a better cast, that has a higher
Yeah.
profile cast. There's not
Oh
many
my
series that match
gosh.
up with it.
Yeah, it's incredible. And as you go through the series, I found like my allegiances would shift a little bit. They'd go from, over here, and then they'd come over here a little bit, and then I'd be like, no, that's crazy. It's definitely over here. And I don't know. I just found myself unable to pick a side. And perhaps that's a genius of the show. I don't know. But I really wanted to find my person, and I really wanted to root for my person, and I wanted my person to remain great. And that's just not the way that the show has gone. It's like everybody has done something dastardly. And maybe that's what, I don't know.
We'll see. I know. I think that when it comes to what HBO had envisioned for the series, they envisioned, I'm sure, what they had with Game of Thrones, 7, 8 seasons of highly impactful viewing that was only going to grow more and more of an audience over time, like Game of Thrones did. Now, season 8 of Game of Thrones didn't exactly enthrall the entire audience out there, but it did bring them in because it was the major viewing event going forward. But yeah, I don't think that Westworld has retained that audience. I think a lot of people are more like me and like you that got lost somewhere along the way. And we've seen this with other shows, or many other shows actually, like for instance, The Walking Dead, which was such a highly populated show that has lost over 80% of its audience in the years since at the height of its popularity. So I think that what it comes down to is it still a profitable venture for them to go ahead and continue to make episodes, and just seeing the eye test and utilizing the eye test, I don't think that this is going to be a series that HBO is going to continue, but you never know. I'm not putting it out of the realm of possibility one way or the other.
Yeah, but like I said, I think it does feel like it's time for that series
I think the
to wrap.
producers thought they weren't going to get much more time on it, so they closed everything out, or they closed many things out. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, and where they closed and answered those questions, but have left the door kind of open for some newer stuff, it kind of leaves it open for a revisit to the Westworld world, a
Yeah,
couple of years from now. I
maybe make a
it's
special movie or something like that.
yeah, exactly. And make a movie that would nicely wrap up all of the things, even some of the things that don't get completely answered in that last episode. But time will tell. But I do think it's time for Westworld to wrap it up.
Yeah, exactly. And they don't have the situation where the Orville has, where they made the series with that third season, which I think that they already knew that they were going to Hulu. That's when they got the little bit better budget and a little bit better
Right.
special effects from Hulu and Disney. But they it was only going to go on Hulu. They didn't know until just a short period of time ago that it was going to go on Disney Plus. So if it does well on Disney Plus, they may still have a better chance of having an extended life than Westworld because it's now on Disney Plus, and that could bring in a bigger audience than they ever expected. So we'll see on both of these shows, but I think both of these shows know that the odds are against them right now for continuing their series.
Yeah, and I think I would be more upset about the Orville wrapping up than I would be about Westworld.
Now, they did a pretty good
I
job wrapping it up. I will say that.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I just feel like it's time. I feel like it's correct for Westworld. I feel like we could deal with one more season of the Orville.
I would say 5 seasons. I think it could last 5 seasons
Yeah.
on the Orville, but that's just me. That's just me talking. But what are your thoughts out there on Westworld? Are you finished with the Westworld saga, or do you want to see more seasons on the way? Do you think HBO will go ahead and give the green light to it, or do you see an end of this vaunted series, which was so highly profiled and so much in advance, well thought of by HBO, which is really not materialized as far as being that must see show that HBO had envisioned? Please let us know your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, it's been a great episode, Melinda, but one last thing. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Do 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 do. Wednesday,
Uh-huh.
from the mind of Tim Burton, and well, I guess for those that are familiar with it or not so familiar, coming from the Addams Family series, Wednesday, the young lady who is now put at the forefront of her own series, along with a great supporting cast of the Addams Family surrounding her, is coming to Netflix near Halloween, actually, October 26th. They brought out their first trailer after giving people glimpses on social media of what the look will be like, although it doesn't differ very much from the actual original television show. But this goes as far as a new adventure, as far as for Wednesday, going trying to acclimate herself from a regular school, which doesn't go very well, to a school for special children, such as her and her adventures in this, almost like a Harry Potter for the macabre and the strange and the weird. Your thoughts on Wednesday when you checked out this trailer?
Yeah, I want to go to that school.
Do 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 do.
But really, what's not to love about the Addams Family? A television show and a family that was created to be the exact opposite of what you expect a traditional American family to be
Yes.
and behave and look and dress and all of those things. So I always have a lot of time for the Addams Family. To me, they've always been a bit of a parody. Um, and I have adored them for as long as I can remember. I love the relationship between Gomez and
That's Morticia.
yes, Morticia. Well, thank you. And excuse me, I will do 3 Hail Morticias after the show, I promise.
Yes, I hope so.
But but I love their relationship as kooky and bizarre and weird and dark as they
Kooky is the
are.
word.
Yeah, it's
Kooky
really
and the
about
spooky.
a family that loves each other and accepts each other for exactly the way that they are. They don't expect you to change a single thing about yourself. And above all, that's the message that I've always taken out of the Addams Family. So, I will always have a soft spot for the movies for sure and the
Well,
show.
the series has got Catherine Zeta-Jones,
Hmm.
Luis Guzman,
Who's so
and
great.
Christina Ricci,
Yes.
who is going to be involved with it, maybe doing voiceovers because the character is a younger lady. It's Wednesday as a young lady, as a teenager per se, as far as the main character. But Christina Ricci is involved with this, so I'm assuming she'll be doing voiceovers or something relating to this of some kind because she doesn't actually have a character listed on IMDb. So I'm assuming it's voiceovers or somehow integrated as far as being a part of this. So it's great that she is because she was the original Wednesday in the Addams Family movies. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the mind of Tim Burton will create because it's been a long time since we've seen something from the mind of Tim Burton. And Tim Burton, as far as his films, are definitely out there.
Mhm.
But we want to hear your thoughts on Wednesday. And if you're excited to see this new upcoming series, which actually goes ahead and is part of the old Addams Family series, are you excited for a Wednesday series coming to Netflix? Please let us know your thoughts. Do 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 at popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. My friend, it's a great episode. Any last thoughts before we head on out?
Yes. If you are kind of on the fence about one D&D, please give it a shot before you just write it off. Give it some time, give it some space, give it some time to exist in your mind, watch and read as much stuff as you can about it and give it a chance before you just say no, that one's not for me.
Well, it's just in beta stages for the most part as far as the online experience is concerned. So we don't even know what the final package, the final edition, or the final first presentation of this will ultimately look like because it's still on the way.
Yeah, exactly. But you know how people can be.
First
And
impressions.
exactly. First impressions are everything. And I haven't seen any negative stuff yet, but like I said, I looked at it early this morning and just double checked a couple of things before we jumped on here tonight. And I don't want people who are or who have been playing D&D for years and years and years to write this off before they get an opportunity to get a book in their hands and sit down with a table full of players and run at least a one shot through it before you really make up your mind to say, no, this one's not for me. Give it that chance.
Well, to paraphrase the great Melinda Barkhouse Ross on Spelljammer's release this week, I just want to go to space, man. So for Melinda Barkhouse Ross, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.